Hey, what's going on, guys? So I've looked across YouTube and some places on the internet and all that good stuff, and I've not found a whole lot of good explanations on what our clients are looking for when we come out here to do our bids. I believe that doing the bids is something that I've been able to capitalize on. I figured it out pretty quick, and I've been able to make some money. And just so what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to show you some of the things that I bid, some of the things that are always required to be bid. You know, what I think is easy, quick money versus what I think, you know, you really don't make a whole lot of money doing, but you kind of have to do anyway. And just point out all the different things that I bid. On this property right here, we did an eviction on it a few days ago. My guys come in, they secured it, and they've winterized it, and I'm coming back here to do the bids. So as I'm walking through, I'm just going to point out some different things and talk about a few different things, and hopefully go over from start to finish a good, easy way for you guys to go out and play some bids where you can make a little bit of money, and also, you know, meet the expectation of the client. I'm going to stay away from pricing. You guys know what your time's worth. I'm not going to discuss any prices. A lot of these things will probably have allowable, so, you know, there's a guideline there. And also, you know, I started making these videos for my own contractors and some of my own employees, and I looked the other day and I had over 200 subscribers, and that really surprised me, so I appreciate that. You know, I guess I'll start making some more videos and trying to be a little more active. So with all that being said, let's jump right into this. So this is one of the things that is always required is handrails. You don't have to put handrails on both sides, but one side does definitely have to have handrails. I see a lot of people come in here and they'll measure it off, and it's 4 linear foot. And, you know, they'll bid for 4 linear foot of handrail. You bid for 4 linear foot of handrail, it's gonna come back at $32. You know, minus your percent. So you don't want to do 4 linear foot of handrails. What you want to do is you want to bid the 4 linear foot of handrails with the 8 foot 4x4 posts that you're going to have to put here. You're only going to use probably 6 foot. You'll cut 2 foot off the top, but you still had to buy an 8 foot post because you can't buy them in 6 foot lengths. So you definitely want to get paid for the 8 foot post. You're also going to have to install the balusters, which means you're going to have to put a bottom rail on it. So, you know, that bottom rail's, you know, that's an additional 4 linear foot, so you've got at least one treated 2x4 here, plus the balusters and the 4x4 posts. So you're certainly going to have more than $32 tied up in it. So you need to make sure you mention everything you're going to have to do, and if you're using a repair base, be sure to, you know, put in the repair base everything that you're doing. If you're not using a repair base and you're just giving them a price, you need to account for your materials and all that good stuff. As you can see by the arrangement of shrubs behind me, these people clearly had a green thumb. Shrubs everywhere. No, but seriously, this is the only shrub on the whole house. Now I'm going to bid this shrub because I'm not going to miss out on a single dollar when we come back here to do the approval. But I will say that houses that have more shrubs is obviously better off when you come back to do the approval. I said I wasn't going to talk about prices, and I'm not, but I will say that you should always bid the shrubs. And you can go home, pay $10, you can run it through a repair base after you get your measurements and your heights, and you need to have photographs of all that good stuff. But shrubs are generally pretty quick and painless, and it's a quick, fast way on your bids to generate some, you know, some decent income, to get it worth your while and the trip coming out here. So bidding the shrubs is always something that I look forward to. It's something you should look forward to, and you should always do. Now within the shrubs, a lot of the times there's going to be saplings. Now when you come back to trim the shrubs, you're going to have to trim those saplings anyway, so you may as well bid to remove those saplings separately. In that case, you would just be adding more to, you know, your overall workload, but it's still stuff that you would have to do anyway. So you want to go through, you want to find your saplings, you want to label them, you know, 1, 2, take your photos, 3, 4, however. And you want to bid those saplings. You also want to look for trees touching the structure. And when I say structure, I mean any of them. You know, we got an outbuilding out here, and there's no trees touching it, but this is few and far in between. 9 times out of 10, the trees are touching the outbuildings. They're up against the house. In that case, you're going to want to measure the diameter, the width of the base of the tree, and you're going to want to bid to trim, you know, limbs off building, 36-inch tree, get back, run it through a repair base, and get your price and submit it. These are another good way. We use a pole saw 9 times out of 10. That's, you know, we don't even have to get on the ladder. We just use the pole saw. And again, that's a quick and easy way to get your overall number up to where, you know, the trip out here is worthwhile. So shrubs, tree saplings, trimming any kind of trees. Overgrowth. I've learned that if you bid the overgrowth as overgrowth, it very rarely gets approved. But if you photograph the overgrowth and you measure it in height in your linear foot, and instead of putting overgrowth, you put shrubs, it stands a way better chance at getting approved. So this building right here, I'm actually going to bid the demo. As you can see, a tree fell into it. But if it was a perfectly fine building and I were bidding this overgrowth, touching the side, because I don't want to have to go through here and individually count out, you know, 32 different individual trees of privet hedge. It's a whole lot quicker to just measure it off length and height and measure it that way. But the approvals tend to come back better if you list this as shrubs rather than list it as overgrowth, even though it's clearly overgrowth. You can do it however you choose, but I have learned that that's better for me. And like I said, there's really no trees touching it. Now, all of the stuff on the roof here, like I said, we're gonna bid to demo this one, so it's not a good example, but this one right here, you can see, there's roof damage, no doubt. If I went inside this shed right now, guarantee you I find roof damage. But I can't get on the roof to adequately assess the damage of the roof as it is right now. I can't see anything, so I'm gonna bid to remove all of these leaves and debris off of this roof. That's gonna be something I do. Like I said, that's pretty easy, quick, and painless. And then once I do that, I can really assess it. Another way you can assess the roof is through the inside. But if it was a home, there'd be, you know, sheetrock up there, all kind of other stuff, and it's really hard to get in the attic and assess these roofs. So if there is a roof leak, especially in the house, and I can't find anything in the attic, I'll always list in my bids, hey, I have got to get the stuff off the roof so that I can get up there and properly assess this thing, because I can't see anything right now. So in this outbuilding, yeah, so you can see, you know, all the damage up in the roof. So this one's easy. You know, this is a super duper easy. Every piece of decking on this outbuilding roof has to be removed, replaced, along with probably four squares of shingle. So I can bid all of that from the ground. I don't even have to get up there, which is great. A lot of the times, you know, you actually have to get up there. So I can take my photos from the ground, get the inside pictures, measure my length, width of the building to get my square footage, and I will, and I'll bid that. Now, when we're talking 4 or 5 squares or less, we normally do that in-house. When we get up over that number, I've got a roofing sub that I use, and when I price it accordingly, knowing that 1, I'm gonna have to invest the money into a roofing sub, and 2, I'm not gonna get the money back out for up to 60 days. So I try to take into consideration the money that I'm investing. So if I were to invest that money in the stock market, and I were to make X amount of percent, you know, what would I have? So I take all that into consideration, and I try to make sure that there's enough money in there to justify me putting the money up front and me having to wait 60 days to get the money back. But like I said, if it's 4 or 5 squares, we'll probably just do that ourselves. You know, when it gets into the whole homes, I don't really like to do that. 1, we're slow. These roofers can get in here and do it in 12 hours and take me 2 days. So, and I hurt for 5 days after that. So I don't enjoy doing them. But 5 squares or less, we'll do them. You know, 5 squares or more, then we'll bid them out with the understanding that, you know, we're gonna have to sub it out to an actual roofer, and making sure that we have enough money in there to justify all that. Another thing I always bid that's pretty quick, easy, few couple bucks, is nothing to write home about, or as Conor McGregor says, break out the red panties, but water caps, dryer vent caps, sewage drain caps, which is your washer drain line, you know, that little 2-inch cap capping that hole, your drain cap on your hot water heater, and then the 2 spigot caps for your washer hookup. So it's typically 5 water caps, 1 dryer vent cap, and then 1 sewage drain cap. You've got your where your fridge hookup, they take the fridge, they leave that line uncapped. You can cap it, or you can bid to cap it. There's an allowable for it. Some companies want you to do it when you're here doing the initial, some want you to bid it. Just whatever they ask, make it happen. But gas lines, they need to be capped. naked wires. Maybe they took a light fixture with them, or a ceiling fan they just bought, you know, whatever the case, and they just stripped it down. You know, all your naked wires, they need to be capped. Those are all things, the wires are all things that are mandatory. The water caps, I think maybe it's VA owned homes, they don't typically do it. I think it's VA. You know, I've bid them a million times and I don't think I've ever went out and done them. I can't remember, I think it's VA. But I always bid the water caps, dryer vent caps, sewage drain caps, that stuff. It's just easy, quick, few bucks. And it just helps tack on, you know, overall dollar signs to your approval. So cleaning the fridges, this is another thing that just always has to be bid. It's a requirement. You can't just not do it. Now you can bump up the price depending on how bad it is, but I'll tell you, this is what's funny is this fridge right here we emptied Friday. The power got turned off Friday, and there's already disgusting bugs, maggots, and whatever else devours all this food in such a quick period of time. But it does not take them long, that's for sure. So we would bid to clean this fridge. Now if there was still a bunch of food in here, you know, removing the perishables by cubic yard would be separate from cleaning the fridge. So make sure you don't just bid to clean the fridge and then remove the cubic yards for free. Make sure you separate those things. You want to do, you know, you want to break every single thing down to where you can maximize the amount of money that you're generating off of each individual trip to the property. So bid to remove the perishables, bid to clean the fridge. Now, this property right here has got some surface mold on the cabinets, which obviously is not good for the people who were living here, because they were here as of about 4 days ago. And this did not happen over the last 4 days. So with this, I would not bid to kilt it. I see, for whatever reason, a lot of people coming in here and kilts and cabinets, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. There's two things that I always bid when I see this right here. And you see it a lot down here in the South because it's just so darn humid. So I'm gonna bid to come in and biowash this with some antimicrobial, inside and out, based on the, you know, the square footage, length, width, height. I'm gonna clean it up. I'm gonna make sure all the mold's out. And a rule of thumb when you're dealing with mold is you always wanna go 2 foot past the last place you've seen mold. So here we see mold, we at least wanna clean 2 foot over this way. I think if you go and talk to any mold remediation experts, that's what they always advise, specifically, you know, when you're cleaning and tearing out stuff. So we're just gonna bid to biowash this with an antimicrobial. We're gonna clean the mold off. And in addition to that, we're gonna bid to place a dehumidifier. Now they may say something like, oh, we want those, what are they called, damp rids or whatever. Those things aren't worth 10 cents, all right? So if that's what they suggest and that's what they want to do, then by all means come out here and do it. But what this home needs to prevent this right here is it needs this to be cleaned up and treated. And there needs to be a dehumidifier placed in here to keep the humidity down, because once you turn the HVAC systems off on these houses down here in the South, this is what you get. So always bid mold. Never, ever, ever let mold go. You do not want to not bid something because you don't want to do it, and then more damage occur, and then you be responsible for it later on. So we'll definitely bid this. Now we're going to go and look on some of these other cabinets and see if it's on them as well. Yeah, so you know, just as I expected, you know, we've got some surface mold down here on the kitchen cabinets as well. So we're gonna, you know, like I said earlier, we're gonna bid to get all this with an antimicrobial. And when you're bidding this, you want to bid this, you know, inside and out. You've got to wipe every square foot of these cabinets. So you need to make sure you have your square footage right, and you need to be conscientious of the amount of time and supplies it's going to take you to do it right. And you need to get paid for that effort that you're putting into it. So one other thing that I didn't mention that this specific house doesn't need is soffit and fascia. So many of these houses that I do have to have a ton of soffit and fascia work. I hate doing it. I mean, I hate it. To me, it is the worst work in the world. I don't know how anybody could do it for a living, but it is something that has to be fixed. So you're always going to want to go around and look at your fascia, get your linear foot on your fascia, however much you got to change. And the same thing on your soffit. So you always want to check your fascia and you want to check your soffit. The other thing is the siding. Any kind of siding issues where siding's falling off or it's rotten or whatever the case may be, you need to bid to fix it. Now, this is something that's a little fruit for thought. Now, if I've got to come out here and there's one little piece of siding that's messed up, and like this right here, there is no way on God's green earth I'm gonna come out here and fool with this thing. If I just measure it off and I bid 1 square foot, replace 1 square foot of siding, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm gonna measure this thing off length and height, at least a good half of it, and I'm gonna do half of it because it's not worth it to me to come out here and make freaking $57 changing just a little bitty piece of this stuff. So make sure to be conscientious of what you're doing when you're placing these bids, because even though it's only a small area that needs to be replaced, it still has to be worth your time to come out here and do it. Oh my God. Be careful where you're walking. Almost died right then. Too old for all that. So if you're walking around with a camera in your face, you know, maybe that was the good Lord telling me, because I didn't even see this. So I haven't bid this yet, but I just fell in it, so I noticed it. So, trip hazards. You got to bid these bad boys too. Now, in order to do this, you've got to haul the dirt from wherever you can drive to. You've got to buy the dirt. You've got to pull it around. Fixing something like this it's pretty labor intensive. So I'm going to bid this for the cubic yardage of dirt that it's going to require to fill the hole, and I'm going to make sure that I get paid for my time and effort in bringing it over here. So any kind of trip hazards, they've got to be addressed as well. I can't believe that is the most bizarre thing, that I was sitting there doing that and then I fell in the hole, but that is exactly why they want them bid and fixed. So fascia, siding, trip hazards, shrubs, I think we've pretty much went over everything that I can think of on this specific house. This isn't too bad of a house, to be honest with you, as far as things you got to. So I'm sure there's some stuff I missed, but if I think about it when I get back in the van, I'll just do a quick summary video. But anyways, so I left that house, headed over here to the next one, and as I expected, I'd think of some other stuff, but it's funny, I'm not really good on camera, so when I start recording myself, it's like my mind just goes. But anyways, wasp nest, there's an allowable for that. Those are easy, you know, count them, same thing, 1, 2, 3. Dead animals, any kind of roaches or ants or anything like that, you want to bid to bomb that. That's easy. Feces on the carpet, a lot of the times these people will be moving out, so they, or at least what I perceive happens is they lock their dogs or cats or whatever in one specific bedroom while they're got the doors open, moving all their stuff out, and they use the bathroom all over. The carpet, so you know, you'd want to remove the feces and get paid to remove the feces, and then you'd want to remove the carpet and get paid for that. And that goes back to what I was saying, where you want to break everything down. You don't ever want to lump two things into one thing and only get paid for the one thing. If it's actually two things, if you're removing the feces as well as removing the carpet, you want to get paid to remove the feces first and then remove the carpet. So we got feces, we went over the fascia, the side and handrails, you know, light plates, holes in the wall, in the sheetrock on the wall. They don't generally, you know, I bid that over the years, and it doesn't, most of the time they don't ever want to do anything with that. But holes in the ceiling, a lot of the times, a lot of these clients, they'll want that fixed, so I do always bid to replace the sheetrock, you know, if there's some sheetrock. So one of the things that it's important to be able to understand the difference between is a water spot and mold, specifically on the ceiling. So if I'm going through a house and I see a water spot, that immediately rings a bell to me, like, okay, I've got to go on the roof, and I've got to go in the attic. So I go in the attic and I get pictures of the whole attic, but while I'm getting the pictures, I'm looking around and I'm trying to figure out if I can assess, you know, where is this water coming from? Is it new? Is it old? Whatever the case may be. If it's an old water spot from a previous roof leak and there is no mold, my bio-washing kilts. If the area is only this small, I have a minimum of 32 square foot. So I'm going to measure off 4 foot by 8 foot every time. It does not matter how big it is. That is my minimum. I'm not going to bust out the kilts or the bio-wash for any less than that right there. So if it's in the laundry room and the laundry room's only 6 foot by 5 foot, then I'd make that exception. I would measure the entire laundry room 6 foot by 5 foot. If they don't like that and they want you to bid less, then just tell them no. This is what it is. This is the way that I do it. This is the way that I justify to myself that I'm covering my own butt for anything that happens in the future. So, have your minimum as far as that's concerned, because if you're bio-washing and kills 1 square foot, you're going to come out there and do it for nothing. It's not even worth opening the can for. So, if it's mold on the sheetrock and the sheetrock is damaged and you're going to be pulling the sheetrock down, they're going to want you to bio-wash and kilts the ceiling joists behind the sheetrock. But it's a whole thing, because you pull the sheetrock, when you pull the sheetrock out, the insulation that comes up there comes down with it. So if you're going back with the sheetrock, in addition to having to put the sheetrock back, you're going to have to put the insulation back. So you're going to want to, when you're doing your bids, you need to be thinking, of all the things. So not only am I going to have to remove the sheetrock, I'm also going to have to remove the insulation that comes down with the sheetrock. I'm going to have to bio-wash these rafters. I'm going to have to kilt these rafters. And then when I put it back, I'm going to have to put it back. I'm going to have to put the insulation back, and then I'm going to have to put the sheetrock back. All of that, I go by the same principle, a minimum 32 square foot. So it doesn't matter if I'm only busting it. And another thing too, and this is going to help a lot of you guys out who aren't sheetrockers, do not try to just patch the specific spot of sheetrock. If you're in a bedroom and it's a 4x8 piece of sheetrock up there, in the middle of it's messed up, and you bid the 4x8 piece, find the seams in the sheetrock and pull the whole piece of sheetrock down, and then you can just put another piece of sheetrock up there. Makes it a whole lot easier to mud it and get it finished and prepped and ready for paint. I would say across the board in this industry, the thing that makes me laugh the most is the sheetrock. Now, I'm no sheetrock finisher myself, but I can definitely get it close enough to where I can somewhat be proud of it. I can walk away and sleep good at night. A lot of the stuff I see is pretty comical that anybody would even walk away from it. But to make things a lot easier on you, find the seams, pull the whole piece down, replace the whole piece. So another thing that I did not mention outside talking about the shrubs, the tree trimmings, all of that is priced separate from the debris generated to remove it. So you're not just going to leave a pile of shrub trimmings and tree limbs and saplings laying all over the yard. You got to do something with them. So if you're going to remove them, then you need to have another line item down there that remove 14 cubic yards of green debris generated from shrub trimming, tree trimming, sapling removal. That way you're getting paid for every single step that you do, and by the end, when the approval's done and it's all said and done, you'll have a pretty good number there, and it'll make you want to go and do it. You're like, okay, I can do this and I can make a little bit of money, and that's what you're shooting for, in this business. This is a fun business, but this is also a business to where if you let it, you'll be doing things for basically nothing or free or even losing money. So when you're going out and you're doing these bids, start out bidding everything you see. Then when you get your approval back and you're looking through it and you're looking at your bids and the approval, you can kind of see what they're approving versus what they're just looking over. So then the next time you go out there, you already know what you don't have to waste your time bidding, especially if it's for the same client. And these are just some things you should be doing. And always do a good job. When you leave there and you've done your approval, make sure it's something that you're proud of. And I mean, that's really it. There are some things that I bid occasionally, like if I pull into the driveway and my van or my truck or whatever I'm pulling in there with is getting scratched up by limbs, I bid all of that stuff, for that very reason. And it's gonna get approved because I'll put a caveat in there. I'm not pulling my truck and trailer in there, tearing up my ladder racks and everything else, and windows, and scratching up my decals and everything else. Well, these overhanging limbs. So, you know, you can bid that stuff. And to me, the more things you do on the outside of the house, the better the overall number at the bottom of the approval is. You know, all of the work you do on the inside, to me, has a smaller profit margin. Anything you can do that does not require materials, that's just straight labor, you know, your profit margin is growing. Or at least that's the way that I look at it. When I just start forking over dollars to make dollars, it's already crunching down my profit margin. So everything on the outside that you know could potentially cause damage, make sure you bid. I know we did not go over vines. Vines are very, very important. I think there's sumac, there's creeping Virginia, there is poison ivy. Those are all poisonous in a sense. Now, you may not specifically be allergic to any of those three. I'm not. But my employees, I have one employee who goes out and does a lot of this stuff that's allergic to all three. So anytime I see any of those three, I always list them as poisonous because they are poisonous to me. It requires special PPE for my guys to be able to do them. So if it's kudzu, it's not poisonous. Don't list it as poisonous. But if it's a poisonous vine, list it as poisonous. It makes that number go up. It costs you more to do it, so they should pay more for you to do it. Vines, you know, they're easy. They kind of, to me, go around the same price range as shrubs do if you run them through a repair base. If you've got one vine that runs up the whole, you know, house, it's, you know, 12 foot high, and you pull the tape across it and it's only 12 inches, you know, a foot wide, you're not going to bid to remove 1 foot of vines. You're going to bid the vertical. You know, I always tend to go in whatever direction renders the most linear foot. That's just kind of my rule of thumb on the vines. So, you know, vines, tree limbs, shrubs, those are all really, really, really good ways to get your number up. You know, so when I pull up to a house and it's really overgrown, I get excited because I know. One of the other things to take into consideration real quick before I close this thing out is days. So I've learned that I am the most profitable on 1 day, second most profitable on 2 days, and anything after 2 days it starts falling off. In other words, I make the most money if I go out and I can complete the whole thing in 1 day. So when I'm looking at these overgrowth and everything, and I'm pilfering through and I'm trying to find every single thing I can to make a dime, be conscientious of how long it's going to take you to do it, how many days it's going to take you to do it, how many people it's going to take you to do it, how many trips to the dump, you know, and all of those good things, and without just going out and doing it and screwing the pooch a few times. You know, that's really the only way to learn. It seems like I've learned everything. You know, I've learned all those lessons the hard way, and it's really hard for me to explain. But, you know, I try to keep it 1 to 2 day jobs. A lot of the times, I mean, you just don't have a choice. If the damages are there, then you have to bid them however, and sometimes you don't make as much money as you do other times, and that's just kind of the way the game goes, unfortunately. But you got to take the good with the bad in this industry. I'm sure everybody knows that. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you looking at my ugly face for this long. Anything I can do, any video I can make, anything I can explain, anything I can do better, please let me know. Like I said, I'm no pro at this. I'm honestly just kind of winging it, so please let me know. I appreciate it, fellas, gals. Y'all have a good day.